evening. Good evening. Good evening. I was like doing something else. Hey, how's it going? Hi, Mike. Hi, Vic. How's it going?
You got
All
caught.
is
You got
good. All is well.
all is
All is well.
all is well. How's everybody doing?
Well, we can't complain, my brother. I guess we could, but we're gonna roll with the punches.
Well, yeah, we just trying to survive Trump world, like I said.
Boy,
Oh, here we
I
go. Here
told
we
you.
go.
I
Here we
told you, Vic.
go.
I told
That's what I'm
you.
saying.
I told you.
That's what I'm saying. Trump world,
Let's
and
deal with the niceties first, Mike. Let's tackle the niceties,
Mike, you
and
never
the
did say.
pleasantries, the small talk,
hey,
even.
look, Trump don't believe in foreplay. He jump right in it. Why can't we? He don't.
Boy,
He just goes in. He goes straight in, and he go at us hard. He don't play around with us, and we got to make sure we not playing with this guy. We cannot play with him. Everybody got to get out the vote. We don't have a minute to spare. Not 1 second. We have got to fight, fight, fight for because our lives depend on it. And I don't think people understand that. This is a serious, serious matter, man. This guy is going around saying he's cured. He's cured, Professor Vic, of the COVID. That is a dangerous, dangerous precedent to set. That is a dangerous thing to talk about. Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
we can hear you. We're just trying to figure
Yeah,
out
we
if you
hear you.
heard that say.
All right, I was gonna be quiet. Yeah, yeah. Listen. He said today that I don't know. Maybe I'm immune. I don't know what. Who knows? This feigning ignorance, but he knows everything. He doesn't know anything about QAnon. He doesn't know anything about the Proud Boys. But as soon as it's something else, I've got a mind of a steel trap. I can remember everything. I mean, what is it? You can't remember or you can't remember. This guy has got to go. We have got to go vote. Our lives are at stake, American people. Our democracy is at stake.
Boy, I tell you. Carl said hello.
All right.
He also said, did you get Al Gore to help you with the internet?
Um, Al Gore
Right.
significantly contributed to the health, the growth of the internet. So I don't want you to hate on Al Gore. Look, Al didn't start the internet, but he definitely kicked off its growth. Just like George Bush didn't start oil, but he definitely kicked in money and tax purposes and policies to make oil grow, to make fracking grow. So yeah, Al helped the internet. He wasn't the progenitor of it. He wasn't the start of it, but Al definitely helped the internet. He started legislation and things like that to make the internet boom. We can thank Al Gore for that. And I ain't gonna hate on Al with that. Yeah, yeah, Al did it. Who was that saying that, Candace? Our boy. Who was that?
Who is our boy?
I don't know whoever said that. Some talk about Al Gore. Somebody said something
Oh,
about
that
Al
was
Gore.
Carl. That was Carl.
Yeah, okay, Carl. We know we always know what trick bag you coming out of. But like I
Yeah.
said, Carl, yeah, Al Gore helped. And listen, this what you know what this is a quintessential thing
I'm,
about
I'm
how
trying to figure out how Carl found the show, and I'm in on the Carl's on Facebook, but I'm trying to figure out because I'm on the YouTube link and nothing is playing for me. It just says whose opinions it anyway live Fridays at 5, but there's no show playing.
well I mean Carl's on Facebook, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but see, this is what Carl and people like that do. They start talking about stuff that are non-issues. Think about this. He just mentioned Al Gore, y'all. Al Gore. Al Gore ain't been in public office for more than a decade since Obama came on. And I don't even know, did he even stump for Obama? Right? Al Gore would be president today had he brought out Bill Clinton. But people we always are scared to reach into our past and bring people forward. Where's Jimmy Carter at? Jimmy Carter has been a saint since he got out of the presidency in 1980. I mean, we're talking about 40 years ago, and this man is still making things happen, building homes, feeding the poor, He's a good guy doing good things for the planet over in Africa, getting treatments for malaria and stuff like that. But people want to talk bad about Jimmy Carter, but they love Reagan. They love him. They love the Bushes. And I don't see George Bush out building any houses. Neither one of them. Well, the one is dead now, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
We don't know. Where did Vic go?
Yeah, where's Brother Vic at? Professor, we need you.
I think Vic left.
I'm here.
Oh, I do want to talk about there are actually a couple of things that I want to get to. I want to first get into some of the backlash that Ice Cube came up with the CBWA, the contract with CWBA. Somebody needs to mute your I'm getting an echo.
Okay, that's probably me. Let me mute.
Yes, okay, but he came up with the contract with Black America, the CWBA, and he's been getting some backlash about this. There was a reporter who came out who made it seem as though Ice Cube had spoken with Trump, and they'd had this conversation. Ice Cube said not so. He sent his plan to both Biden's campaign and he sent it to Trump's campaign, and the Trump administration was willing to make some adjustments right now based on what they're doing, and that the Biden campaign told him, we'll get with you after the election. You have people who like trying laughing harder one. So anyway, so he's getting some backlash. He's getting some praise and he's getting some backlash. And so Vic, you go first. I want to know how you feel about
You a hater.
Yes,
You're a hater.
Absolutely.
That's fine. I'll be a hater. Go ahead, Vic.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that Ice Cube's heart is in the right place. I think he has good intentions. I think he's being used now. I find the timing of this conversation to be somewhat interesting, right? So when I look at Cube, I also think about P. Diddy and T.I. and a variety of other entertainers who've been raising the same issues, right? But I find the timing interesting. And my first question would be, why didn't he present this at the beginning of this election cycle, right? I mean, why didn't he present this to both the Republicans and the Democrats at the very beginning of this campaign season, going back to about a year ago, as opposed to right now? Now, again, I have no reason to believe that he doesn't have righteous intentions, right? But here's the second question. Why Ice Cube? Now, I'm not saying that Ice Cube doesn't have a voice, that he doesn't have a platform. He clearly has a platform. He clearly has a voice. He's been on the scene for a number of years. And we do have a tradition of African-American entertainers who speak out on various social issues, right? And they should continue to do that. However, I will say this. I'll say this. He's no Harry Belafonte, and he's no Paul Robeson.
Exactly.
He's no
He's
Harry
no James Brown either.
He's no Harry Belafonte nor Paul Robeson, who was multifaceted. Paul Robeson, who was an All-American athlete at Rutgers University, he was a Phi Beta Kappa. He had a doctorate of law degree, so he was a legal scholar as well, but he was also a freedom fighter. Now, I'm not saying that Cube and others shouldn't have a voice and they shouldn't speak out. However, what I will say is that when a person speaks out, they need to speak from a studied viewpoint. They need to have a studied viewpoint.
He did admit that.
They need to have a studied viewpoint of the discipline to which they're speaking, right?
And he did admit that he was not well versed. He did admit that.
Absolutely, and absolutely. So I think there's a lot to work with. I will say this, however. I will say this. No matter who's in that White House, I do believe that our leadership should be negotiating with whoever's in the White House, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden or whoever is in that White House. We should have a person who's going to be, or persons who's going to be engaged in negotiations. Because when nation states enter into negotiations, they talk to their enemies all the time, right?
Hold on, wait a
Let,
minute,
let, let me
wait a
finish,
minute.
Doc. I
Wait,
ain't finished
let
yet,
him
Mike.
finish,
Let me
Mike.
finish.
Let him
Let me
finish.
finish. Come on now. So when nation states enter into talks, they talk to their enemies all the time, right? So I'm not saying that the White House is our enemy, but I'm saying what I am saying is this. This speaks to the fact that we must practice military science because you enter into talks with persons who oppose your viewpoint all the time, but you have to be able to protect your viewpoint. That's merely what I'm saying here. So no matter who's in the White House, number one, we should be the ones who's driving the agenda. We should be the ones who's creating the agenda. We should be the ones who's raising the viewpoints that relates to our economic, political, social, cultural, spiritual experiences that are impacting us in this day and time. So with regard to that, I don't care who's in the White House, we should negotiate, right? But be careful. Don't allow yourself to be used as a pawn as well.
All right. So as a hip hop head, a lover of hip hop, I grew up with NWA. It's a soundtrack to my life. Public Enemy and NWA, and so many other hip hop groups. I love Cube as an artist, as a filmmaker, and everything else. Cube is my boy. But I've never heard Cube talk about politics besides saying he'll never go to the White House. Now that's I'll never have dinner with the president. That Cube said that in a song. But here he is with the worst president that America's ever seen, arguably, definitely the worst president for black people in the last 50 years. And Cube is sitting down with him to talk. Now, first of all, who appointed Cube as the speaker for black folks? And we got to get out of this trap that manipulative racists keep pulling us into when they want to they pull out people like Cube or Kanye. Like, who cares in this realm? I agree with you wholeheartedly, Professor Vic. Yeah, Cube got a right to talk about what he wants to talk about, but what's Eddie Glaude talking about? I'd rather hear Tavis Smiley and Cornel West and their agenda. Cube is just talking, but he doesn't have an organization. He's talking. He's nurtured, moved with. Who are the young people that he's bringing along with him? What's a group that he's putting money behind? What is their agenda? Cube is just trying to keep himself relevant right now. Maybe he's gonna drop an album or something like that. I'd rather have Eminem talk for me right now than Cube, because at least Eminem is from Michigan. He might be able to talk about some real issues. And Eminem has come out already talking about how he feels about Trump. He picked a side. We cannot afford in this election, with so much at stake, to listen to Cube or anybody else who has any inkling about trying to negotiate. Now, let me talk about negotiations. You cannot negotiate with a terrorist. This president is right now harboring terroristic individuals and terroristic acts. He is working with a subversive government called Russia to subvert our government here. He is in debt for $500 million to the Russian government. So if he's with Deutsche Bank moves all their money through Russia. I mean, Russia moves their money through Deutsche Bank. So Russia owns Deutsche Bank, and they give Donald Trump loans. I mean, Russia owns Donald Trump. If you're an oligarch and you're a billionaire in Russia, you cannot become a billionaire without the blessing of Vladimir Putin. And Donald Trump could not get the blessings of the $400 million he owes without Putin's blessings. So we have a subversive in the White House right now. We're going to negotiate with this man? I think not. We should be doing everything we should to beat him out of that office. And if he happens to stay there again, yeah, we can talk about negotiating then, because we'll be negotiating from a bad space. But right now, we got to defeat him. And we don't negotiate with this guy right now.
So this is the thing. Normally, I would be 1,000% with what Vic is talking about as far as who's in the office doesn't matter, because we should be negotiating with whomever, right? However, in this particular instance, the only reason that I'm going to say meh, not so much to that theory, is because we have someone in office who has shown us, that one, not only does he not respect our lives, and the fact that he literally had to be browbeaten into saying that to into denouncing white supremacy, but also the fact that he still says systematic racism isn't real, and that he's saying that what was the other thing that he said, that implicit bias training is racist, and so you have someone that's showing you up front that there are a lot of your interests that they will not meet. Then not only that, but the dishonesty in saying that he's done more for black people than anyone else. It's almost as if saying, it feels a little dismissive. Because one, if we talk about what's going on with the HBCUs, because he loves to bring up the HBCUs, he loves to say that he's giving them money. What he does not talk about is the measures that he's trying to put in place that will make HBCUs ineligible to receive funding beyond what was given to them. Whereas other colleges and universities will be eligible to receive funding, HBCUs will be left out of that. And so while he wants someone to applaud what he's done, in our faces on the front end, we have to look at what that means on the back end and what shape HBCUs will really be in should these measures that he's trying to introduce get put into place. I think another reason is because he's shown that there is no tie or real loyalty to this country for him. So when that happens and you're willing to try and do some quid pro quo stuff, or you're willing to try and bully foreign governments, and you're willing to do all of that, you're showing that you have no ties or loyalty to this country. And so for me, that speaks in the sense of it doesn't matter what happens to America, whether America thrives or fails, you don't care either way. And so there's no negotiating with a person who, one, has shown you that because it works for him to side with a base that does not like you simply because the color of your skin, and then two, someone who's shown he has no real ties or loyalty to this country, so he'll let this country fall flat, and then three, someone that has an affinity to dictators. That is scary, because that means maybe you've got some ambitions to become a dictator. And then not only that, but then someone whose yes does not mean yes, and their no does not mean no, and at any given day, any given opportunity, he will trade you in for whatever works best. You cannot negotiate with that kind of person in good faith and think that anything good will happen to you. Or even if it is something good that happens to you, there's a string attached that will eventually be pulled. And so just to have some sort of real safety net, you have Biden, who has shown that stability matters, you know what I'm saying? And who has shown a loyalty to this country in the sense of he's not going to sit and watch it implode. And so I think that when we're considering the leadership and position, their word has to matter, if that makes sense.
And I'll say this though, Candace and Mike, you guys raised some excellent points, right? But what I'll say is this, and I'm being brutally honest here, is not Donald Trump the current face of this state of
Absolutely.
America? Yes.
Absolutely.
He's currently
yes.
Right.
And
let's be honest, when has this nation state dealt fairly with black people? When we look at the history of our sojourn in American society, when has America dealt honestly with us and fairly with us concerning our social, political, economic issues? It hasn't, right? But here's my point. I think that what Donald Trump has shown us is he's shown us the character of this society with this mask ripped off. And we're not naive. All of us on this conference call, we're not naive. We understand the history. We know what was done in the history. We know what we've been subject to, right? But Donald Trump rips off the mask, and there's no pretenses. There's no pretenses there. And this is not the first time that's occurred as well. But on to my main point here, because I think in some cases, see, our view of America differs from certainly a Donald Trump's view of America. And I would say that I would suffice it to say that he's not the only one who has that view, who is operating in the corridors of power, right? So I think that, okay, we know that Donald Trump is going to be here for but a season, and I believe that he's going to lose this election, right? However, we're still dealing with the same system, and with regard to that, no matter who is in the White House, right,
Right.
we're still going
Right.
to have to protect our social, political, economic interests. Period. I
So
don't, from my standpoint, I don't care who's in that White House. I may not like them, I may not agree with them, but they are sitting in that Oval Office, and I think that we cannot suspend, and that's what some of our
so
leaders have done. Certain African American leaders have suspended what they should be doing. Their charge is to represent the social, political, economic interests of Black America. Now, here's the deeper issue for me, and I'll turn it over. I think beyond Donald Trump, America, we all agree on this as well. America's in trouble. In fact, America is showing signs of breaking up, because no matter who's in that White House, whether it's Biden or Trump, America will still be a very divided society every way you
so
slice it. But here's my point, though, Candace. That's why I think that working together within the African American community, and of course there are times we need to work with other groups as well. I'm not against that also. However, I think that this hour is calling for us to sit down collectively and hash out and hammer out a Black agenda for Black America. So
what's
we certainly need to do that. However, I think also we need to look beyond the shores of America, and we need to develop a global perspective, which is also a part of our
yeah,
tradition.
yeah.
That's been part of the problem, because I think that we're gonna have to do that, because what we're witnessing here, folks, is the reordering of American society. Here's my last point. Remember 4 years ago, Donald Trump's chief advisor at that time, who was Steve Bannon, stated that one of the main goals of the Trump administration was to overturn the administrative state. That's
That's
exactly
right.
what we're witnessing right now. This goes hand in hand with the reordering of American society. America, as
Well,
we know it, is being reordered. And the question that Black America has to ask ourselves is, what are we going to do with regard to that in terms of protecting and securing our interest?
well,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah. Grover
here's a
Norquist.
couple of things to what you're saying, right? Again, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that uh there has to be our interests represented. That I agree. And I'm not saying that, oh, you don't talk to Republicans. I'm not saying that at all. None of that. You know what I'm saying? You should have a bipartisan coalition. You should be able to reach across the aisle. And even if you can't get them to do something in a cordial way, yes, you should be willing to put the pressure on to get done what you need done that serves your best interest. I agree that this country has failed over and over again to recognize everyone within its borders, their humanity and their needs. I absolutely agree with that. The only thing that I'm having a problem with here, Vic, is when I say that when you're dealing with Donald Trump, you are dealing with a man that has no ties, no loyalty, that his word means nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then, and you got to look at somebody that's willing to throw this country away. It doesn't matter what you need or how you need it. Whereas when you're looking at Joe Biden, you have someone where civility does matter, where America's station and prowess and where they fit in the global society does matter. You know what I'm saying? He understands this, and he understands what losing foot in the global society will mean, whereas Donald Trump doesn't care about any of that. And so when you have someone who doesn't care about any of that, you have someone that there's no point in negotiating with them because it won't matter. You know what I'm saying? And when you have someone who has shown that he has enough people that will be against you and willing to take your life and do any crazy thing, that to him, you know what I'm saying? That gives him yet another reason to not have to honestly negotiate with you, or even negotiate with you out of some sort of worry that it will affect him negatively. I think that it matters when you have a person who has nothing to lose and doesn't care. That matters. And that changes how you're able to negotiate, if you're even able to negotiate, and not even negotiation. Say that there has to be, I mean, you can see how even with how the protests work. You see in the 60s when you put a camera on the protesters, right? And you put a camera on the police and those who were opposed to the protesters, and everyone got to see how uncivilized America was being. America decided to come to that table and negotiate with black people. Whereas you fast forward now, you put a camera on that, and you have a president who's sending in secret police to hush it. Or you have a president who is saying, oh, this is fake news, and they're not showing you that these people are looters and rioters and they're bad guys. You know what I'm saying? Where he's putting a bad face on people who are simply trying to get justice. Where he's putting a bad face on people who are trying to get equality. Where he doesn't care about making his side seem civilized. So there's nothing he can offer or give you because it doesn't matter to him.
Let me respond. Mike, let me quickly respond to Candace's statements. I agree with you, right? In fact, I maintain that Donald Trump is not even the main issue here. I mean, he's really not the main issue here, right? Our interests are the main issue. And I'm clear on who Donald Trump is. I know who he is. In fact, I mean, come on now. I know who he is, what he's done, what his history was before he became the president, right? Or was placed in the White House. I'm very clear on Donald Trump and what kind of character or lack thereof he has. I'm looking at this from a systems perspective, right? No matter who's in that White House, and we just have to we have to agree to disagree, and that's okay. That's fine. We can have differing perspectives, right? So I'm fine. I'm fine with that, and I'm clear on who Donald Trump is. I would like to see Joe Biden ascend into the White House, no question about that. But I still maintain that we're still dealing with the same system. We're dealing with the same. We're dealing with the same system.
And I don't think if you notice, but I don't think you noticed that.
Let me give you an example. Candace, real quick. Let me give you an example.
Real quick. I don't know if you noticed. My argument isn't that we're not dealing with the same system, right? Or that anyone, or that there's all of it going to be some miracle cure-all under Joe Biden. Because again, you have someone in Joe Biden who has indeed been in positions for quite some time. And they've all been in a place where they could have affected some real change if it mattered the way they claim that it matters around election time. But what I'm saying to you is the difference is you have someone who cares about how this country appears to the global nation that will put you in a better position to get some things done. And then you have somebody who flat out doesn't care and will send people to kill you and will say stuff like liberate this place.
I'm clear on who Trump is. I'm clear on who Trump is, right? I'm clear. I'm clear, right? I mean, he's not my favorite person in the world. I mean, he's not even the main issue here, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
Now, from a historical perspective, there have been times when you've had the person who you thought would work against you work on your behalf, right? Let me make a couple quick points, and I'll let Mike chime in here. For instance, you go back to the early 1960s, and you deal with the Kennedy administration, right? And we know about the fabled Camelot. Right? They call it Camelot. But when we truly study history, I mean, the Kennedys were very apprehensive about embracing Dr. King and the civil rights movement, even though they were New England bred, right? They were well informed, and they were a very influential family in Connecticut, in Massachusetts specifically, right? But interestingly enough, obviously we know that Kennedy was struck down by an assassin's bullet, and that cut short his life and his career and his tenure as the president, November 1963. Enter Lyndon Johnson, who was, let's be clear on this now. Anybody who knows the history knows this. Lyndon Johnson was a Southern segregationist. He did not fit the bill as the person who would champion major civil rights legislation. But even though he had a lexicon that rivals, and I would argue in some cases surpassed Donald Trump's vitriolic use of language, because Lyndon Johnson had a mouth on him also. Okay, but the difference between Lyndon Johnson and Donald Trump is that Lyndon Johnson understood, even though he was who he was, and he was in bed with Southern segregationists. He understood. I don't think Trump will get to this point. Lyndon Johnson understood in 1963 the gravity of the moment with regard to the civil rights movement and the various liberation movements that were taking place in Africa, in Asia, and in South America and in the Caribbean. He saw the winds of change. So Lyndon Johnson, knowing this and understanding this, got on the right side of history, and he backed civil rights legislation to the point where he has championed more civil rights legislation than anyone else. And nobody saw that coming, given his background.
I'm saying to you, Vic,
Candace, I'm not done yet. Real quick, and we can move on from this. You know, we can just suffice to say we have difference of opinion. That's cool. But in some cases, now this will get this. Mike won't like this one, but I've been hearing from persons such as Dr. Claude Anderson, who was on the Breakfast Club recently talking about economic empowerment in the Black community, and I've been hearing other voices say similar things, that they want to work with the Democratic Party. They want the Democratic leadership to reach out to them, and they've been putting calls into them, and it's been met with a deaf ear.
Right.
Dr. Claude Anderson said the Republicans have been reaching out to him. I've heard that. Where the Democrats at?
I've heard that.
He's very specific about that, man.
But Vic, you keep saying we're disagreeing. I'm saying under normal circumstances, even with your Lyndon Johnson thing, example, I'm saying under normal circumstances, I would agree with you. But what I'm saying to you, and you keep saying you're clear on who Donald Trump is, what I'm saying to you is there's no swaying him. There's no working with him.
Okay, I feel you.
Nobody is going to be able to.
He's loyal to nobody but himself. I get it.
Exactly. There's nothing there for him. I mean, and then another thing with Lyndon Johnson is Lyndon Johnson was willing to protect America and how America looked on a global scale. I'm saying that doesn't matter to Trump. Now,
I know that. I'm clear. Yeah, I understand.
Now, if we had somebody,
I agree with you on that.
If we had somebody where that mattered to them, then I would be like, oh yeah, talk to that side too.
Oh, I agree.
He's got to go because there's no loyalty to country or anything. There's nothing there that will make him be a person of his word. And then I do want to say,
I agree.
I'm proud of you because you've been quiet this whole time. I want to read something that Tim said really quickly so we can let Mike get in here, right?
You know I'm coming with both barrels.
Tim said, I was born and raised. Oh, wait, not that one. Tim said, I got to go up a little bit more. He said, I've tried to tell a few people that if they're hanging all their hopes on this election to solve the systemic racism, they're going to be disappointed regardless of who wins. And Tim, I agree with that. I agree with that. Doubt. I don't think that Biden being elected is all of a sudden going to be a magic marker to end systemic racism, because we know that it is ingrained in this country. We know that they are planted at every level, people who are enemies of progress. I'm well aware of that, Tim. I agree with you on that. I just think the difference is that one person gives people permission to be outright ridiculous and hateful, and the other one at least gives us a fighting chance to Tim, I agree. That's all I can say.
Candace, let me pose this question to you, Candace. What if Donald Trump makes it back into the White House? He's there for another 4 years. What would you do? Would you sit down and negotiate with him over Black interests at that point? Or
I believe he can be negotiated with. Is what I'm saying.
So then we shouldn't do anything then.
No, I don't know. I'm not saying that, because you notice I never once said, "Oh, cube this, cube that." You notice I never said that. All I said was I don't believe Donald Trump is a man of his word. Yeah. That's what I said.
So let me say this. Let me say this.
Yeah, there you go.
But if he's in the office for 4 more years, Candace, we got to deal with the devil that's in that office.
I feel like if he's in office for 4 more years, then we better be prepared to push. That's what
there you go. So this is what I'm talking about. Am I still muted? Hey, Paul, you ain't muted me. All right. So listen, this is what I'm saying. Where we are right now is in a tenuous situation. I'm saying because we're in the midst of the fight, we don't need to be negotiating with Trump right now. We're in the 11th hour. It's the 4th quarter. We ain't got time to be playing buddy with him, slapping him on the back or whatever, or negotiating. Hey man, why don't you send somebody else in? We don't need none of that. We need to crush him and his movement, which means Mitch McConnell and everybody else who's lined and aligned with him. Right now, let's say he gets back in. then we should be doing that now. We should be putting plans together, contingency plans for if he gets back in. But we have to then have a movement to still crush everybody around him. We can get them out of office in 2022. That election needs, if he gets back in, that election needs to be bigger than this election. We need to get everybody out of the Senate who's a Republican, everybody out of the House who's a Republican, so that he can do what they did to President Obama. We can stop almost every movement that he has, and we can impeach him and get him up out of there. Now, getting back to the point that Candace was talking about and Vic was talking about Ice Cube. Like I said about Cube, what money is Cube putting up? Is he starting an organization? Is he doing some of these things? So when I look at these people who come out and start talking crazy at the 11th hour, my question is, hey, wait a minute, y'all. What are you doing? What have you been doing? Put your money where your mouth is, or start mobilizing some people. This is our biggest problem as black folks. We start listening to people because we think they got money, and they're not offering anything to the rest of us. Ice Cube's rich, insanely rich. He doesn't live the same life you and I live. He's living a life closer to Donald Trump's life than he's living to our life, even though he's black. So we got to make sure we put the onus on Cube. If he's going to talk that stuff, deliver for us. And I mean deliver, go down to the neighborhoods, put in a community center. Before you start talking about what you're going to do up at the White House, start coming down in the neighborhoods and put up a hoop house. Or start teaching young blacks how to make films. Do something at a film school. At least Dr. Dre put money at Southern California University to start with a film school in his name and his honor. Ice Cube's doing none of that. I think we need to stop playing that game with individuals. You talk about Dr. Claude Anderson. I respect Dr. Claude Anderson. He's a brilliant man. Dr. Claude Anderson has the recipe that we should be following, right? Now, I will say this about Democrats and other people. Republicans, because of their evilness, make it difficult for us to deal with Dr. Claude Anderson because they'll rake us over the coals. So let's say Joe Biden says, hey, I invited Dr. Claude Anderson in, and he's going to be on my forum to help me such and such and such and such. Do you know the Republicans will lose their minds? Anything that Dr. Claude Anderson ever said that was controversial, they would run him over the coals. But they can work with him. So even Dr. Claude Anderson has to be careful of falling into the thing saying, well, Democrats won't call me, because in some estimations, we just got to win first. And I'm saying this, and I keep saying this to people, let's get the win. Then we can call in Dr. Claude Anderson and fight the fights because we already got the office. But we can't afford to have anybody out of place, any missteps, any mess ups, or anything right now. I'm watching. When we watch Joe Biden speak, all of us are looking for a gab. I'm like, oh, Joe, no, don't say that wrong. We're all doing that because we know what's at stake. Trump can get up there and be a gab machine, gab lion, subversive machine, terrorist threat talking guy all day long, and nobody says anything because we expect that out of him, right? So what I'm saying is we have got to right now stop with all the niceties to people who aren't even moving our way. We got to plow over them with the force of the blue wave. You want to call me a deep blue? We're going with a deep blue wave this time. Get out there and vote. Make it happen right now. We ain't got time to play. This is an 11th hour. Let's crush Trump and his cronies. Let's get Mitch McConnell out of there. I heard there was a Republican called Ben Sass or whatever his name. He's being sassy a little bit now because he feels they're like rats jumping off a ship. He feels like Trump might be a little bit weak and wobbly. So he's out here talking a little trash. Forget him. He goes too. We get rid of all of them because these are the people for the last 4 years have been quiet. I don't want to talk about what Ben Sass said yesterday. He's still voting for Amy Coney Bryant or Amy Coney Barrett. So dang you, Ben Sass, vote differently. Until they vote differently, we ain't got nothing to say to these Republicans, and we should crush all of them. That's the mentality we should have. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Candace.
Just reading some of the comments, there are a lot of people who are in agreement with Vic. in the fact that we should be planning either way. So I do want to be clear that a lot of people in the comment section do agree with Vic. There was even someone who said that they left a whole lot of links, and they said that this is in response and in agreement with Victor having the vision to look abroad as far as a plan and what to do. And so they left some stuff about the Ghana Diaspora Embassy. They left some stuff about the major contact for citizenship 6th region African studies visit, different things like that. And like I said, I don't think that Vic is wrong. It's not that I'm in a disagreement with Vic. It's just that I am clear on what I'm dealing with, and I have no faith in that person keeping their word. It's not that I think Vic is wrong. It's just that I'm like, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. I don't see it being beneficial. I don't see it working out. I just don't. And I get what Vic is saying.
And I'm with you. I understand.
And look, I agree with you too.
But Mike, let me pose this question to you then, Mike, because of the three of us, you have a military background, right? You understand military science. And so Mike, how do you deal with the opposing viewpoint and look at this from a very strategic standpoint?
Well,
right?
Look,
do you just throw your hands up in the air when you have a person that is in the legislature, that's in the White House, et cetera? There's no negotiations whatsoever.
No, I didn't say that.
As a military man who understands
strategy. So let me speak to that. I totally agree with you, Professor. We at this point in the game, we do have to have contingency plans. That's what I said. So we have to have contingency plans in place in case Trump wins, right? We've got to have all of it gamed out. I'm not saying we don't need to have that in place, but right now our sole focus needs to be laser focused, like a horse going down the track. We got to finish this last leg, and we got to finish strong, and we got to understand who the enemies are and every crevice. We cannot let the rest of this Republican Party jump ship. We're like Ice Cube's out in California. There might be a few Republicans left in California. We got to crush them too. California should be super blue all up the West Coast. Anybody who's ever said, anybody who's got the R before their name, we should get rid of them. Now, we have to have a scorched earth mentality right now with all of these folks. Here's why. Because they're going to, if Trump loses, they're going to turn around and act like they've been our best friends the whole time.
Absolutely.
They're going to act like they was against Trump the whole time.
But Mike, right? You say it all the time. You say it all the time that everybody loves the winner. You say it all the time. We already know. We already know.
Right. I'm interested
into their closet and wait for their time again. We already know this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but listen. This is when it's time to out them. We're gonna out. You don't normally want to out nobody who in the closet, but we're gonna out every Republican who's ever said anything wrong. Out them out the closet. Get them out the closet. Drag them out by their feet and take them out of that office figuratively.
We do have
and put a hold on. And we need to put. Let me say this too, because I don't want people to get this mixed up. There are a certain amount of these Republicans who require that we put dinos in, Democrats in name only. Right? We got to put some dinos in particular positions. And we got to let some of these dinos talk trash about Nancy Pelosi, talk trash about Joe Biden, so that they can stay in office long enough for us to get legislation passed. We gotta have our Susan Collins up in there. I don't know. Everything seems to be terrible. I don't know. I'm thinking about voting maybe some other way. And then everybody runs to Susan Collins, and she always votes the other way against us every time.
Let me tell you something. After the second time Susan Collins pulled that, I said, I see you. I'm done with you. You have to go. Don't worry.
Right. But the media plays this game with us like we got a chance. With every time Susan Collins, well, maybe so. That disturbs me. And this woman every time votes with the Republicans.
So I
just like Lucy with the football, and she needs to go up there and where she at? Connecticut, Northeast. She needs to go. Even look. If you're in Utah right now, get rid of Mitt Romney. He needs to go. All of them.
Come on now, Mitt flipped early.
Look. If you're in Texas right now, I know Ted Cruz got another 4 or 5 years, and Beto should have been running for that spot. Anyway, we ain't gonna go there again.
So,
but
I want to read these comments real quick. You done? Okay,
I'm sorry. My bad.
No,
I was
you're
on my
fine.
soapbox.
Mike, you're fine because I'm so proud of how silent you've been the whole show. But then again, you keep getting muted. So I don't know if you're silent on your own or you're just being muted. I don't know. But
I've been self-mutilating.
so anyway,
Wow.
let me give a couple of these comments here. Angela says you cannot blame people for letting go and moving on from Trump, but stay woke and challenge all politicians to keep their word. I wholeheartedly agree with that, Angela, wholeheartedly. And Tim says someone should tell Deep Blue about the plan that breaks California, Oregon, and Washington states in 5 states. And Carl said, Mike, you said Hillary was going to win. Biden is going down. And Tim said that Susan Collins is from Maine, Mike. She's from Maine. And I'm happy somebody corrected him. Thank you, Tim.
My bad, Mainers. Live free or die, Mainers. Live free or die. My bad.
But yeah, I because this is one of the reasons why Mike has earned the nickname Deep Blue for us, because he doesn't move. He stays right there. He's not moving. I am of the mindset that I agree. You challenge these politicians. You make them keep their word. You press and you move forward. This is not some sort of, oh, I don't want to upset them. These are people that you elected to represent your interests. These are people that you elected to protect the republic. And when you see that certain things are happening that is of a detriment to the republic, meaning things that cause division, meaning things that keep people in poverty, things that take away people's rights, you challenge that. You just do. And it doesn't matter if it is a party that you normally agree with or affiliate with. You challenge it. You cannot let democracy die, or you can't let things happen just because you want to have so much loyalty to a party. It's got to be people over party, and that's the only way we succeed here.
Can I speak to something, Candace? Can I speak to something?
Let me interject something real quick here, y'all.
Okay.
I want to speak to that because I agree wholeheartedly with you, Candace. Mike, I got to say this, brother. Even let's say that Joe Biden wins, we need to hold Joe Biden's feet to the fire and Kamala Harris's feet to the fire. We need to hold all these Democrats to the fire, because I know you disagree with me, Mike, on this, but I still maintain that the political ground is shifting. And particularly in the African American community across this country, I'm hearing a rising tide of voices who vote Democratic typically, but they are doubling down on holding the Democratic Party responsible and accountable for their actions. I'm hearing
Vic,
a rising tide of
Vic,
voices,
you know
Mike,
what I think
regarding
is gonna happen,
that.
Vic, you know what I think is going to happen? You know what I think is going to happen? I think that a third party is going to be birthed after this.
There you go.
Think it's coming.
There
I think
you
it's
go.
coming. Mike is saying no. I think it's coming.
No, it's not happening. Let me say this. It's not happening, y'all. Y'all get that old third party mindset out. Now, let me say this. What could happen is the Republican Party goes dark and they go all the way to the right. And just have that 30% of Americans who believe in what they believe in, and Democrats will have to co-opt, like I said about deep blue Democrats, we just call them blue dog Democrats in the South and Texas.
Yeah.
There are Democrats running in Houston and the suburbs and stuff like that, who have to talk almost Republican light or Republican like to get through.
Centrist.
But
like
I mean, I'll be remiss if I said, but
we already have a
but
name.
Let me say this. What's that?
We already have a name for them. They're called centrists. We already
there you go.
Well, no. Well, I don't even like the word centrist because what does that mean? Because listen to me, there are no Republican centrists. There are no Republican centrists. There are no Republican leftists. Right? Republicans are all the way to the right. Name me one. Name me one. I'm waiting. I'll wait. There are none.
Mike, Rockefeller rather was at least a moderate Republican back in the day, back in the 70s.
Whoa, hold on, wait a minute. You got to go back 100 years before we start talking about Republican centrists. I'm talking about now.
Well, we know
after the Tea Party movement.
Mike. I mean, they're far right. Absolutely.
After the Tea Party, listen.
We know that.
After the Tea Party movement, there may be some in the House, and I can't even find those people. But after the Tea Party movement, after Reaganomics, after Trump, they I can't think of the name of the principle, but what it's called, the principle is you go so far one way that if you get half of what you want, people think you've done something, right? But you
Right,
Uh-huh.
you you
right.
were clamoring for the total the opposite direction. So what used to be called centrist is doesn't even exist in the Republican Party
Yeah,
anymore.
sure,
These are
sure,
right
sure.
wingers. Mitt Romney's
Absolutely.
dad, who was governor here in Michigan,
Yeah,
he was a centrist, or what you would
yeah.
call
A
a
moderate
moderate
Republican.
Republican.
Yeah,
There's no way he could get elected today, right?
sure.
These guys
Absolutely.
cannot get elected today. Even Susan Collins, who votes with Mitch McConnell 98% of the time, can't be
Hmm.
considered a centrist, even though
No
she
doubt.
mouths like a centrist sometime and she
Hmm.
sounds like one. Her voting record is what we need to be talking about here. And
Hmm.
so we gotta get our mindset changed. We're thinking these crumbs on the table
So
that people that
But
these
but
Republicans throw at
but
us are
but
something.
Mike,
But
you're
but hold on,
Mike,
but hold on. I want to
Mike.
mention something. I want to mention something though. Can I mention this?
Go ahead, Doc.
215,000 Americans are dead.
Yeah.
See, we can talk all day about other things,
I'm
but the
actually glad that
Republican
you brought
Party
that up.
is what's that?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to say for these last 5 minutes, I wanted to switch to something else really quickly. So I'm
Okay.
glad you brought that up. I want to
Yeah.
read some comments. I want to read
Okay.
some
I'm sorry.
comments really quickly too, though. I want to make sure that we make sure we keep. So Tim says, I'm with you there, Candace. It's got to be people over party. Tim also said, I'd like to see multiple parties and the party that has the most seats in Congress pick the president. I don't know about that one, Tim. Carl said that Candace third party hurts everyone. I voted for Ross Perot. Trust me. Carl, I was just simply saying that the way things are going, I can see a third party being
Yep.
worse.
Yeah.
Casey says we need our own party. I will gladly pay dues for a Black Panther Party dues card. Mike said, Carl said, Mike, start the Deep Blue Party. Hometown Hero said that Mike is clueless once again and looks like I didn't miss anything. Uh, Spectacletv said Panther Party. We tried that, didn't we? And then Hometown Hero said, Yo, Deep Blue, how you feel about the fact that millions of Americans on the brink are getting squat and stimulus because Pelosi didn't want Trump's name on the check? She admitted this to Blitzer. Come on now, Hometown. Here you go with no facts. I want to really quickly, because Mike, you opened the door for this, and I kind of wanted to talk about it anyway. As we know, both of the candidates, they had hometown. They had town halls
Oh yeah.
last night, both at 8 o'clock. The president was live from Miami, Florida. Well, was live from Florida, and the former vice president was live from Philadelphia. One of the things that
Hmm.
Savannah Guthrie, who was the moderator for the president's town hall in Florida, said was that Chris Christie, who recently left the hospital after being in ICU for 7 days straight, Chris Christie came out and said that he was wrong about
Oh
not
yeah.
wearing masks.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that when she asked the president, how did he feel about it? Did his mind change about wearing masks? He first said, well, Fauci said at first, don't wear masks. And Savannah said, yeah, he did say that. But then he clarified after that, he cleared it up and said, we do need to be wearing masks. And even after Fauci said that we do need to be wearing masks, you're not wearing a mask. And has your stance on
Right.
masks changed? And his response to her was his stance on masks have not changed, that people can decide. Even though you had Chris Christie, who was one of those people who were like, you get masks. Chris Christie
Well,
ended up in ICU for 7 days, came out and said I was wrong about that. Hey, Vic first. Vic first. Because we'll never hear from Vic
Yeah.
if Mike goes first. Vic, what do you
Yeah,
think about this?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised here. I was surprised to hear what Chris Christie said, quite frankly, after having been in the ICU for 7 days. And I'm wondering, did Trump send him some flowers or whatnot and well wishes? but at this point, a leopard doesn't change his spots as far as Trump
How
is
about
concerned.
this, Vic?
I'm sorry?
Did Trump send him whatever medication he was taking?
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Did he?
Trump was allegedly good 2 days later off his meds.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Chris Christie
Exactly.
sat in ICU for 7 days.
No, and you know what? And you raise a great point there, Candace. I mean, that is symbolic of how unequal the medical establishment is. If you have money in America, you can buy not only the best lawyers, but the best medication and professional help or medical help that your money can buy. But if you don't, you're out. The people are out. That's another issue right there, Candace, because once again, if Trump gets in and it looks like this lady's going to be confirmed as a Supreme Court
Oh,
justice,
they're gonna push
then
her
the
through. They're
Affordable
pushing
Health
her
Care Act
through.
is on the chopping block.
Yeah, they're pushing her
There
through.
go 30 million Americans will be without health care.
Right.
That's huge.
Right. Well, listen.
Enter in herd immunity, y'all. Which
is
what
not
Garvin
working
is.
well in America. Herd immunity is not working well here.
And that's
I
what
said herd immunity is not working well here.
No, it's not.
There
And
you
it's not
go.
even
There
working,
you go.
It's not even working well for Chris Christie. I thought you said Trump was lied from America, LIED instead of LIVE. He did nothing but lie the whole doggone time that he was on TV. He was lied from America. This guy, think about what he did here. He wouldn't even admit to when it was his last negative test. Did he take a test before he went in to contaminate everybody else around him? Right? He's patient zero, but they won't tell you when he had a last negative test because they don't want you to know that he's patient zero. His wife is infected. His son is infected. Have we ever heard from Hope Hicks? Where's Hope Hicks at? Where's the spokesperson? What's her name? The little Nazi that gets on TV every day? I call her Baghdad Barbie. Remember Baghdad Bob, who would get up and lie every day? We got Baghdad Barbie up every day. She hasn't been up. I don't know where she's at right now, Kelly McEnany. So we got this president lying through his teeth day in and day out. And hometown hero, you can talk all you want about me not understanding the facts. Let's go back a ways. In March, the president said just a few people, nobody, don't even have anything to worry about. In April, he said, don't worry, we're going to open back up. It'll be over in a minute. And in August, he was saying, we're going to shut it all down. We need to open everything up. Don't worry about it. Everybody's going to be all right. Now, we can't even imagine. Take yourself back to March. And we were like 50,000 people. There's no way. Now we're at 200,000 people, and people are acting like it's nothing. They don't even care about these American lives. The president could care less about you, hometown hero. If you die tomorrow, he's holding rallies in endangering places. He's going to Iowa where they're having an outbreak in Iowa right now. No hospital beds. If you went to Iowa right now, and you got sick, hometown hero, you couldn't go to ICU because of the breakout. And he's having more rallies in Iowa. You tell me that's not drinking the Kool-Aid? Are you kidding me? He had a place with seniors. He had a rally with seniors today who were showing up. A lot of them didn't have masks, but they're indoors to go see the president who's got COVID. Let me tell y'all something now. He is a carrier of COVID right now as we speak. He is going around from city to city like the Pied Piper of COVID-19, carrying around this virus in his mouth, in his bones, and in his speech. And he's infecting people with not just the virus literally, he's infecting people with this nonsense of why we can't get ahead. So I'm like thoroughly just, we can't negotiate with this right now. He's got to go.
All right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Candace.
All good, Mike. All good. We've got a few minutes left, Mike. And I'm just gonna wait for this time marker to get where I need it to go, so I can say, Mike, 30 seconds. Go, Mike.
30 seconds. Go. Okay. All right. Listen. Hey, listen. You can vote right now. Go vote today. Get it done. Do not play with these folks. You never know what'll happen. Right now, the Russians are working to hack your voting system right now as we speak. We could wake up on November 5th and we know that Trump has fixed the election. We won't find out till a month later. So we've got to get out there right now. Don't play. Call your friends. Call your buddies. Because we might be in a COVID shutdown right before November. They don't want to shut it down. But we're in a crisis right now, everybody. 1,000 people a day are dying. And we know how to save people. So let's get out there. Let's get our votes in. We don't have time to play. We don't argue on the bench. I ain't worried about Ice Cube. I ain't worried about people online. I ain't worried about hometown hero. We marching forward with the vision of getting Trump out of office. After that, everything else doesn't even matter.
Mike, that was a minute, not 30 seconds. Big go.
And I have to say this, certainly I agree with Mike. We need to exercise our civil right, and that is our right to vote, one of the most important rights that we have in this country. So as American citizens, we need to cast our vote and vote like we've never voted before. Peace.
Look, that was 15 seconds. Thank you very much. All I have is what I always say, and that is people over party for sure. We need to make sure that we are taking care of us and doing what's in our best interest. I don't believe a person that has shown that he has no loyalty to this country in the way that he has tried to bully other countries, even holding back military aid to other countries because they will not do what he wants. And you have someone who has allied himself with people that have been enemies to this country. I just think that at this point, something different has to happen. I do agree with Tim in the fact that no matter who's in office, systemic racism will not just all of a sudden go away. But I do believe that there is someone that will offer us a better opportunity to properly address it, someone that you can sit down at a table and actually negotiate with, and there won't be strings attached or won't suddenly disappear after they get what they want. I will say at the end of the day, though, I do believe in defending democracy. I believe that you should vote because you have the right to vote, and you can vote however you would like to vote. We give you our opinions, we read your opinion, and we move forward from there. But at the end of this, we all have to figure out how to come back together and fix what's going on with America, period, because our economy is suffering, our healthcare is suffering. People are not making living wages. Children are in trouble being poorly educated. Education is underfunded. We have a lot of things that have us in trouble as a country. So we need to come together and figure out, as the people who hired these people who interview for these jobs as they're campaigning, we need to come together as the people who are their bosses and figure out how to make America better for all of us. We will be back here again at 5 p.m. next week with Whose Opinion Is It Anyway? We'll see you then.
Peace.